it's no selfie, no Justin. I think that's the rule, right? So what I want to talk about is the changing face of advertising and how we actually get to the user we want. The speaker before me spoke about suppression, but instead what we're focusing on and what we're really going all in on 2019 is identity and being able to find the actual people versus a cookie. Now, this really opens up a good opportunity for all of us in this room to wedge a space between the walled gardens and not be dependent just on them in terms of finding actual people. Now, the goal of identity is open up two things. One, to be able to leverage the fact that right now, many of the brands in the room use custom audiences to take their marketing list and find the right people online. The problem with that, if you're a publisher, is that this doesn't help you. It really only helps the walled gardens. Secondly, if you think about an industry, we are dependent on cookies. We are all cookie monsters to some degree, but if you look across 200 different ad tech providers, or even Stack, Adapt, and Index, it gets fragmented very quickly and doesn't scale that well. What this ends up with is the fact you get this. You get many, many small pockets of audiences, and if you're McDonald's, it really doesn't allow you to address a market at scale. Now let's look at the marketer example. The way all the marketers in the room view the world is through your CRM database. So in this example, you've got a gentleman, actually one of our British folks, Richard, who typically buys a purchase in September. Now, if Richard is very, very, very nice to his partner, the gifts in September are normally from Cartier, and Cartier wants to reach out and make sure he's purchasing from him right around this September timeframe. So, as an industry, what do? Remarketing. Remarketing is the cure-all to everything out there and can really fix all their problems. Now, if you're Cartier, though, you've got two issues. Strike one, Richard purchased his jewelry offline. So that's a problem. So what are you going to do? And strike two, even if Richard did purchase online, if it's a year later, how brittle is that cookie? Do you really think, the speaker made a comment about 90 days, do you really think you can find that person a full year later? Now, as programmatic people, we get up and say, look, if you advertise enough in September with a large enough budget, with that sophisticated profile, suppress it properly, in the right environment, you're going to find Richard. And that's been the dream of a lot of what we do in advertising, what we speak to our clients and our own teams about. Now, once again, unfortunately, it's sad, Don Draper. This is not a happy moment in Mad Men, to be clear. You're looking at another couple of strikes. One, you're not guaranteed to actually find Richard if you do this. With all that budget, you won't necessarily find him. And two, it can be very, very expensive. Now, that said, if you're selling Cartier jewelry, the cost per acquisition is probably pretty good, so maybe this will end up working out quite well for you. Now, in this case, I know, not the happiest moment in Mad Men, but this is the walled gardens. These are the people come along and say, wait, we can find you Richard. We can find him whenever you want and how many times you want to see him because we have people-based advertising. And what does that mean? At the heart of it, they come back and look at this. Rather than looking at the bottom right around programmatic, they're saying, we're going to find Richard. We're going to find his email address. We know about Richard. We know about his search habits. We can correlate a lot of information about Richard that tie directly in an email address. And as a marketer, you really don't want to look at CAESSEJXY, point made. But I think one of the neat things, this actually represents this cookie was our CO. He pulled the cookie from our logs, was able to get it. But this means absolutely nothing to you if you're trying to find Richard or Andrew Casale. As a marketer, you want to very quickly and easily be able to identify the email address. And I think that's what identity really unlocks. For agencies, it makes a much easier way to find the right audience and not be trapped into the rules of the walled garden. Not the restrictions where in terms of measurement and in terms of how you want to actually take a look at your audience, it's yours and it opens up across not just Index, but many other exchanges, many DSPs across the industry and gives you choice. And I think on the publisher side, this just brings a great amount of value if we can make this incredibly easy for them. If we can actually bring the ability to bring email addresses in from, say, the Globe and Mail or the Post or any of the major publications or Pelmerex, bring that in a privacy-safe manner and allow the two to talk, it increases the yields for the publisher and gets much more targeted advertising. And at the end of the day, This is a good thing, right? Richard's partner gets his or her Cartier watch, and we're all happier for it. So thank you very much. Cheers.